What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Cup of Coffee. My name is Jake Brown, and I'm here with my co-host Duncan Irvine, and we're going to talk some Pacific Northwest news. Let's kick it off with the Mariners this time, as the Mariners signed reigning Cy Young Award winner Robbie Ray to a 5-year, $115 million deal, and they also traded for Adam Frazier for two prospects from the San Diego Padres. Duncan, what do you think of these deals?
I feel like for a team like the Mariners, especially, these are both two really good deals. Honestly, I was not anticipating Robbie Ray at all. I had my eye on guys like Chris Bryant, Marcus Semien. So to see them go after kind of this big name pitcher really caught me off guard. I also like the Frazier trade because I wanted us to go after him, or excuse me, them to go after him at the deadline. So I'm glad they got it done eventually. I guess better late than never, but it's going to be interesting to see how they work out. It seems like they're accumulating a lot of infielders, potentially still picking up one or two big names if free agency ever comes back. But I think it's the right direction for them.
Yeah, I definitely thought that. I knew that Chris Bryant wasn't going to be signed before the CBA was expired, but I know the Mariners were in on him. But I was like you, I was shocked that Robbie Ray went to the Mariners. I was anticipating if the Mariners were going to sign any pitcher that was going to be Marcus Stroman. And obviously that's not the case. He went to Chicago on the north side. But yeah, those are some. I'm worried that this deal is going to be like an Eric Bedard type thing where he's just going to be complete crap for 5 years.
I can't imagine he'll be that bad, but I feel like last year was a fluke more than anything, and there just was kind of a lack of other dominant pitchers. Obviously, won the Cy Young, but I agree with you. There's a small part of me that's worried about the really the length more than the money, but I guess we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, I think the money is fine, but it's still 5 years for me. I would have gone 3 at most. But I know Jerry DePoto wants to make this team competitive again. And excuse me, while they did win 90 games last year, they want to make sure they can actually make the playoffs. So you guys them big to win big, I guess. But the Mariners weren't the only AL West teams making moves this offseason before the CBA expired. The Rangers signed pitcher John Gray, formerly of the Colorado Rockies, and infielders Corey Seager and Marcus Semien to long-term deals. The Angels also got pitchers Noah Syndergaard, Michael Lorenzen, and they also signed a reliever, Aaron Loop, as well, who was with the Mets last year. So what did you think of these signings, and how do you think it's going to affect the AL West if we get back?
So starting with the Rangers, I feel like these signings are good for them, but honestly, I think they have a lot more holes. Like I don't think that these three players are going to fix everything that's going on with that roster. So I see them winning more games, probably closer to the 70, maybe pushing for 80 range, but I don't think they're definitely not the favorite in the AL West now. The Angels, again, they needed starting pitching help, so I think they're headed in the right direction. A lot of their success is just going to come down to how healthy Mike Trout is or isn't. So we'll see how that ends up panning out for them. I've been a Noah Syndergaard fan for a while, so I'm interested to see how he plays coming back now. It feels like it's been close to 3 years. I might be completely wrong on that, but it's just, I don't even remember seeing his name in any headlines in at least that long. So it's good to see that he's still kicking around and is hopefully going to get another shot.
Yeah, and the great thing about the Angels is that now they have 3 pitchers who can hit, obviously not in the same lengths as Ohtani, but Noah Syndergaard can hit bombs, Michael Lorenzen can hit bombs, and they can both pitch very well. So,
they're going after a very, very specific type of pitcher, but I guess good for them.
Yeah, and they did. The Angels also did officially re-sign Raisel Iglesias, so they are doing what Angels fans and baseball fans in general have been asking the Angels to do for years now, and that's go after starting pitchers and relief pitchers. And so far, they're doing that. And this is going to make the AL West. I see it as a 3-team race right now. I think the Astros, they're still really good. I still think they're the favorites. The Mariners, if the signings work out and the trade works out, I think that the Mariners are going to be a 90-win team again. And the Angels are going to probably push for a wild card spot next year if, again, these signings work out. So I think the Rangers are still far away, even though they did sign two big fish in Corey Seager, 10 years, 325 mil. And Marcus Semien, I did not like the Marcus Semien deal just because of the length, and two, the amount of money. I think 7 years, 175 mil is a lot for him, but we saw what Marcus Semien can do in a small ballpark in Toronto, and Texas is a hitter's ballpark. So it can go one or two ways.
I just don't see them being all that much better. Like I said, I think they just have too many holes, and I'm not sure that I like those moves for them, but more power to them, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. So baseball, the big thing talking about since we were talking about the Mariners, the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement between the MLB and MLB Players Association has expired, meaning that there is a lockout for an extended period of time. We do not know when it's going to be resolved. So Duncan, how long do you see this lockout going on for?
So, I mean, I'm relatively clueless. I was texting you the other day. I was like, I get what a strike is, but I didn't understand. I still don't fully understand what the owners are trying to get at by locking out the players here. So I guess as soon as they want to get their mess together and negotiate again, I know I've heard a lot of people talking about how they're not going to really push for anything until the money starts being affected. So probably late February, early March. But I definitely think for a sport that needs all the help they can get and all the national media attention they can get, this is definitely not a good look for baseball as a whole. Obviously, as a baseball fan, I hope it gets done sooner rather than later, but I don't have high expectations.
Yeah, I don't see this getting done until spring training, which is going to leave a lot of players who are still looking for jobs on the free agent market in February. So I think it's going to, like, you got guys like Kyle Schwarber, Chris Bryant that are going to be key players for lots of teams that it could push them over the edge. And the more that you lock out these players, the longer that this could prolong. And I know there's a lot of rules that MLB wants to put in, and they also don't want to pay their minor leaguers a fair wage or give them livable living conditions. So it's just very confusing. It is an owners versus players thing, and the players just want to be treated fairly. They want to be paid fairly, especially in the lower 99%. So guys like Max Scherzer, they'll be fine. But the guys in the minors, they're trying to make their next meal. So
Yeah, I do have hope with kind of some of the stuff you're saying that baseball will be better off and they'll iron out all the details and we will come out with a better sport following all this. But it's gonna be ugly, I think, for the next couple of months.
yeah. So moving on from baseball over to football, where we also have a comedy of errors. The Seattle Seahawks lost to Washington on Monday Night Football, 17-15. Russell Wilson, 20 for 31 passing for 247 yards. Tyler Lockett had 3 of those receptions for 96 yards. All of them were in the first half. Metcalf only had 1 catch. Bobby Wagner, 10 tackles, and they face the Niners next week. So there's been a lot of Seahawks Twitter can be very toxic, or not can be, they are very toxic. And I've seen a lot of people, like, obviously people want Ken Norton fired. They want Pete Carroll fired. Cool. I'm on that train. But Russell Wilson trade for bandwagons now.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are saying obviously he's looked worse this season. Maybe that's due to the finger. Maybe he really is declining. I mean, everybody gets old. But playing devil's advocate a little bit, I can kind of see how this contingent they feel like with the current situation, it's there's no clear path forward to getting better. So until you trade Russell Wilson, your biggest asset, for more assets, it's difficult to see how this team gets much better. And realistically, do you want to have Russell Wilson around on a team like this when you know that he could be traded to another team and be giving you maybe two, potentially three first round picks? I think it's just people want change, and it's easy to speculate about change and during the middle of the season. We'll see. I think it'll be clear once the offseason hits.
Yeah, and there has been a lot of drama surrounding the Seahawks, especially surrounding DK Metcalf, who walked off the field and pointed at backup quarterback Geno Smith, who, while Smith was playing, was targeting DK more than Russ has since he's come back. He's mostly been targeting Tyler Lockett and Alex Collins on screen passes. So, yikes.
Yeah. Everybody's been the thing in the back of Seahawks fans' mind is the DK contract extension after his rookie contract expires. They didn't get anything done this offseason, and judging how this season's going, I'm not sure that they're going to get anything done now. It would not surprise me if DK is also gone and is no longer Seahawk in the next couple of years.
And that would be very sad for all Seahawks fans, including us. But yeah, the one thing that you put in our notes that I certainly agree with is that Bobby and Jordan Brooks have looked really good. I've actually, every single week when I see the Seahawks defense, the one guy I really look to and say, hey, that guy's improving is Jordan Brooks. And it seems like every single week he's becoming more like a KJ Wright figure that we've been wanting him to be ever since we drafted him a few years ago.
Yeah, obviously he has big shoes to fill. I wasn't a fan of the pick at the time, and I can't remember if I said that on record here before, but I thought it was a little bit of a reach, especially when Patrick Queen's sitting right there, and he's been hit or miss, but usually pretty good. I think he really has. It seems like you're saying each week is looking better and better, and hopefully he can get to that same point where KJ is. But specifically in this game, it just felt like every time we needed to play, and every time every time he made a tackle, he did it with emphasis. There was no weak tackles, no wasted movements. I thought he looked pretty good. Obviously, mistakes here and there, but overall, I think it was one of his best games.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what he has left in the tank for the Seahawks as the season comes to an end for them soon in about 6 weeks. So because they're not making the playoffs, no matter how many of the Seahawks say, hey,
You
we
don't
need to
say.
go 6-0, here we go. It's like, no, it's not gonna happen. They do face the 49ers this week. It was originally supposed to be a primetime game, but then it moved out. Are you surprised at all at this move?
No, both these teams suck.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about for that game. But now moving on to the NBA, because we got to talk about dysfunctional teams again. The Portland Trailblazers lost the Utah Jazz 129-107. Blazers gave up 30 points in every quarter except the first. Yusuf Nurkic had double-double with 10 rebounds, 24 points, and Damian Lillard looked awful in just 11 points. They did play yesterday. I did not put the stats in our notes for that, but they do play a tough schedule with Boston, LA, and Golden State next week. What did you think of the Trailblazers this week?
I think we've kind of hit on it every single week. It's more the same. The defensive pieces they thought they were getting haven't really stepped up. When Damian Lillard plays bad, they're not going to do well. That's what happens when you play through your star. I think the bigger news is GM Neil Olshey just being fired today. And this is actually for violating team conduct as opposed to any performance reasons. I think this is really interesting, and I'm interested to see what direction they go in.
Yes, and I'm just looking at the score against the Spurs yesterday. They lost 114-83, allowing 30 or more points in 3 of the 4 quarters again, and not scoring more than 25 in any of their quarters. They shot 35 from the field and 35 from 3, and none of their players reached 20 points, not even not CJ McCollum, and it doesn't even look like Damian Lillard even played. So
Yeah, he's been fighting the abdominal injury that kind of
yes,
been lingering since the Olympics.
yes. So it's really been rough covering the Blazers this year, just because I mean, one, because Lillard's just hasn't looked like himself, and
Hmm.
two, the Blazers just seems like there's just with the Neil Olshey thing, it's just seems like there's a lot of corruption going on in their front office that needs to be resolved.
Yeah, I'm hoping though that Damian Lillard taking off and getting right is gonna give them put them back on track. But this might be a lost season for them, honestly.
Yeah, and it's not like it's been completely horrible for them. They are just a game under 500. So the season isn't completely lost. It just depends on how they deal with the rest of the season, whether it means Damian Lillard has to go on the injured reserve, or if whatever they need to do, make moves. Um,
Yeah.
they just
Something's
need
got
to
to.
survive this.
They're a lot like the Seahawks. Something has to change, and when your star player is not playing good, the rest of the team's not going to look good.
Exactly. Now moving on to college football for some of our last college football coverage of this season. Washington State University, after 7 straight seasons, finally beat Washington in the Apple Cup, this time 40-13. Max Borghi, their senior running back, had 129 yards for 2 touchdowns. Quarterback Jaden DeLora had 245 yards. And Armani Marsh with 2 interceptions. And Sam Heward, the quarterback for Washington, just looked awful with 4 interceptions. What did you think of this game?
I'm sure you loved it as a Wazoo fan, and your
Yeah,
parents were really enjoying this. But
yeah,
I think it kind of sums up Washington's season uh overall. You know, Sam here, we've been calling for him to get more playing time all year. He finally does and looks just horrendous. And it's not like Washington State's defense is all that great either. Like he really was just that bad. I'm honestly surprised with how Washington State has kind of handled the Nick Rolovich situation and really just excelled in every category. I'm really excited to see where Jake Dicker takes this team because
yes,
it seems like he really wants to be there, and it seems like they kind of have found the right formula for winning.
yes. And Jake Dickard, he was promoted to be the permanent head coach shortly after this game ended, and I think it's the best move that Washington State has made all year. I think
Hmm.
this season it looked lost and
Yeah.
came back and nearly went to the Pac-12 championship. So they were that close.
Yep.
They were one Oregon State win away from going to the Pac-12 championship. Um, but um, speaking of Oregon and Oregon State, Oregon beat Oregon State once again, 38-29. Chance Nolan, 308 yards for 2 touchdowns for Oregon State. Anthony Brown looked good for Oregon with 275 yards and 2 touchdowns and 83 rushing yards. Travis Dye, 99 rushing yards. Devon Williams, 110 yards and 6 receptions. It was, you could say that Oregon just offense just looked very good.
Hmm. This is one of the most complete games of the entire season, I would say. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised. I figured after their game against Utah, this is going to be, for lack of a better term, a trap game. They were just going to be kind of downtrodden, not really thinking about it too much. But they really surprised me, honestly. The end result didn't surprise me, but the way that it happened did.
Yeah, it seemed like everything seemed to click for them. The defense wasn't as strong in this game, but Chance Nolan, he's low key really good. He's probably a
Yeah.
top 5 quarterback in the Pac-12. And uh, Oregon does face Utah again in a rematch against them for the Pac-12 championship in Las Vegas this weekend. What do you see in the outlook of this? Do you see a game like it was back in Utah, or do you see something different?
I just think Mario Cristobal is too good of a coach and Oregon's too good of a team. I don't feel confident in saying that they're going to win, but I certainly don't think we're going to see just a thwacking like we did a couple weeks ago. It's for sure going to be closer. How much closer? I really don't. I don't have a good grasp on it just because this Oregon team has just been all over the place this year. One game you get what looks like a top 5 team. Another game, you get what looks like a bottom 3 team in the Pac-12. So we'll see. Like I said, I definitely think they're gonna hold their weight. I would guess that they win this against Utah, but I'm not. I wouldn't put any money on it.
Yeah, I do say Oregon wins against Utah, but I think they have. I think after that game, they want to go to not to Utah, but go play against Utah and have them suffer the same beating that they had in the game in Utah.
Mhm.
So this is on a neutral field, so there will not be any home field advantage. But I mean, Utah is right next to Nevada, so I mean, it's not too far away.
Yeah.
But now moving on to the basketball side of the college score. Gonzaga lost to Duke in a very close match, 84-81. It dropped Gonzaga to number 3 in the nation. Drew Timme was 17 points, Strother was 20, and Holmgren was 16. And uncharacteristically, Gonzaga struggled from the 3. What did you think after this game? This was one of the more close games that college basketball has seen this year from 2 top 5 teams.
I mean, I think this is one of those games we're gonna look. If this was a postseason game, for sure, people would be talking about it as one of the better games of probably all time. Strother continues to surprise me. He's been really good off the bench this season. I think this game, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but the game against Charleston State, I don't know that Gonzaga is really heads and tails above the rest of college basketball like people thought they were to start the season. They've got Bama is a good team coming up this week, and Merrimack, don't sleep on them either. So we'll see what their medal is really, I think, kind of moving forward. But they get another shot at Duke in a 7-game series. Who knows who wins? Gonzaga might come out on top. They've really got probably the best roster in college basketball up and down. So they shouldn't be too worried following that game.
Yeah, and it's not like Duke is not UCLA. Duke has a better coach. They have a better constructed roster, in my opinion, and
Mhm.
a deeper roster, I should say. Not and I think Washington or not Washington, Gonzaga just got beat, and it just happens. It got beat by a good team. It's not like they got beat by Tarleton State, who they
Almost.
almost Tarleton State. They won just by 9 points, 64-55. Holmgren, Timme, and Bolton were the only players with 10 or more points, and they also struggled from the 3, which is 21.1%.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't think this is a test week for Gonzaga this week as they face Bama and Merrimack. I do think that the Bama game is going to be closer than people think. But Merrimack, I don't want to say they're going to roll over them, but I do think it should be a win for Gonzaga.
Yeah, they need to go 2-0 and a pretty dominant 2-0 this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to prove the nation that they can be the number 1 seed in college basketball again. But speaking of teams in Washington, Washington State University lost to Eastern Washington for their first L of the year. Tyrell Roberts drops 23 and Michael Flowers drops 21. And it wasn't like they didn't shoot terribly, 31 from the field and 29 from 3. But what concerns me is the following game that happened as they beat Arizona State 51-29 and in which was 18 and 10 at the half. And it was similar shooting percentages as the Eastern Washington game, 30.5 from the field, 29.2 from 3. Nobody scored more than 15, and they faced USC and Weber State this week. So, reaction?
Yeah, we were talking about them potentially being a top 5, top 7 team in the Pac-12 last week. I'm not so sure about that anymore. Eastern Washington, they're a pretty good program. They made some NCAA tournaments, but you can't lose to them if you want to be respected in the Power 5. I don't expect them, honestly, at this point, Washington State, I don't expect them to make the tournament if they keep it playing like this. This Arizona State team, you and me were talking about it before we started recording. They're not fantastic by any means.
No.
And obviously you win. A win is a win, but I'm a little bit concerned about Washington State at this point in time.
Yeah, I can go off about that Washington State ASU game for all the wrong reasons. I am not talking about ASU in this podcast. I'm talking about Washington State. So at least Washington State got back on track in that second half, and ASU still struggled, only scored 11 points in that, or not 11 points, 19 points in that second half. So it was just bad basketball all around in that game.
Mhm.
And I think if you're going to talk about a test week, I think this is going to be a test week as USC is one of the better teams in the Pac-12. Weaver State, they can surprise you, but it should be a W if Washington State wants to be respected this week. So,
Yep.
but speaking of teams that are looking to be speaking of schools that are trying to be respected again, Oregon beat Montana 87-47, which is a big shellacking. Richardson dropped 18. They were 66 from the field and 52.9 from three, but Montana's really bad. Oregon beat UC Riverside next, winning 71-65. Richardson again was their top scorer with 17 points, and they shot 55 from the field and 42.9 from three. So Oregon is looking better. I do know they had a game yesterday that I didn't add in our notes, but they're starting to get back on track.
Yep. I know we talked about it before. Dan Allman, it always takes a while for him to get his teams under whatever we want to call it, get them really rolling. I think this is just more that UC Riverside game's a little bit closer than you would like, but overall, I think they're still doing the right.
Okay, they did not have a game yesterday. It was another team. I can't remember which game. But they do. Oregon, they have to win against these teams, and they did. And now they have to go and win against Arizona State and Eugene. So that'll be a tough matchup this weekend. So I say sarcastically, this ASU is really bad. Fire Bobby Hurley, please. And yeah, now I'm moving to Oregon State, who lost to Wake Forest 80-77. 4 players with 10 or more points, 46.6 from the field, and just 14.3 from three. But, and this is something that I think Oregon State is best at. They've been really good with their free throws. 80.8 against Wake Forest and 90 in their last game against Penn State, even though they lost to Penn State 60-45. So, I mean, what are your reactions to Oregon State?
They're again, they just keep proving us that last year's Final Four run, or Elite Eight, excuse me, was a fluke. They're really not good, honestly. Penn State is just one of the worst basketball schools in the country. Wake Forest is rebuilding, but they're not much better. They I don't know. They're just not good, honestly.
I do think that Oregon State does have. I do feel like sometimes I feel like they're almost there, but then they just put up games like a Penn State where it just feels like they're one of the
Everything comes off the rails.
bottom 6 teams in the Pac-12, and it's just it's hot and cold. Which one are you? They don't have an identity. All they can do right now is shoot free throws.
Not a bad place to start, but you need more
No,
than
it's
that.
not. Especially in college basketball where everyone is terrible with free throws. But now going as we get worse and worse on this college basketball, Washington beat South Dakota State 87-76, a team they should have beat. Brown dropped 32, and they shot well, 58 from the field and 45.5 from three. But then they go and lose to Nevada, 81-62. While Brown did perform well again as their leading scorer with 19 points, they shot horribly compared to their previous game, 37 from the field, 36 from three, and then they lost to Winthrop, 82-74. This time Davis was their leading scorer with 21 and Brown was 18. So It was their best free throw performance against Winthrop, 13 for 14, which is really good. It's their best they've done all year, as they've been really bad with free throws. But Winthrop had 43. This is probably what won Winthrop the game. 43 rebounds compared to 28, 12 offensive to just 3 defensive for Washington. So what do you think of Washington this week?
Honestly, we talked about it kind of the last couple shows. They're not good, but even this is kind of worse than I expected them to do. I really think, and still do think Winthrop and Nevada are winnable games that any Power Five team should be able to win, especially one who's had the success that Washington's had the past half decade. I'm honestly a little bit surprised Mike Hopkins. He's still employed, correct? I know we were talking about yes, so he's still, it shows where it's at where you have to check, but I doubt he has a job at the end of this season, and it would not surprise me if they follow suit with Maryland and mutually part ways sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you put like one bullet point for Washington, and that's just they are not good.
I mean, I don't even know what else to say about them. They can't seem to play defense. Even in the win against South Dakota State, they give up 76. That's not really a consistent form for winning. They gave up over 70 points in each of these games. You just got to be better than that, especially if your offense is not going to make up for it.
Exactly. So now it's time for NHL rants with Jake. So let's start with the Seattle Kraken, who lost to the Lightning 3-0 this week. I mean, this is a loss that was predicted to happen. Only 17 shots on goal. You cannot win games if you're not getting the offense going. No player in that game for the Kraken had more than three shots on goal. And then the Kraken go and beat the best team in the NHL 4-1 against the Florida Panthers. Driedger saved 33. Eberle, Alexiak, and Donskoy scored 2 points each. And then they go and beat a winnable game against the Sabres. While I don't think they should have allowed 4 points against the Sabres, they did score 7, which was rivaling the Seattle Seahawks at the time. 5 players with 2 or more points, which is very good for the Seattle offense. And then they had the shootout loss to the Detroit Red Wings, 4-3.
That I did get to watch. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was gonna say I did get to watch a little bit at the game, and it was entertaining if nothing else. But
I mean, it's just 2 really bad teams facing each other. But I mean, the Kraken have been winning games they shouldn't and losing games they shouldn't. So it kind of evens out. Ryan Donato in that game had two goals. They do face the Oilers, Penguins, and Jets this week, so a really tough week. Especially against the Oilers, who have 2 Hart Trophy candidates on their team, with Connor McDavid being the leader right now. Maybe the only player who is rivaling any Edmonton Oilers star for the Hart Trophy is Alex Ovechkin. The Pittsburgh Penguins, that's a game that they could be able to steal, but the Penguins are either really good or really bad. And the Winnipeg Jets, I haven't really looked and watched them much this year, but it could be an even out game. The Washington, or rather Seattle, is closing the gap, the points gap in the West right now, the West Conference, with 18 points. Both the Canucks and the Kraken have 18 points on the standings, which evens them with the Chicago Blackhawks. But I mean, it's progress. It's better than what they were a couple of weeks ago. Now,
that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, it's all you can ask for. The Vancouver Canucks, they had a pretty wild week. They lost 4-2 against the Blue Jackets, and this is just a great stop by just proves that their Blue Jackets goalie, who I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, 41 shots on goal, which when you get that many shots on goal, you have to score, 4 points. And they just weren't able to do that. They did get 2. The Canucks lost to the Bruins next, 3-2 in another 1-point game. Yaroslav Halak for the Canucks did very well, saving 39 in the loss. The Canucks beat the Canadiens 2-1. This time, Garland with goals on back-to-back games. He had one against the Bruins and one against the Habs. Thatcher Demko with 33 saves, which he's just keeps doing really well as he's done all year. And then they go and destroy the Ottawa Senators, who are very bad. Hughes with 4 points in total, all 4 on assists. JT Miller ends his scoring drought, and the defense was good against a slow Ottawa offense. So, I mean, it's been a kind of a crazy week for PNW teams in NHL, but it's better than, crapping on them every week and saying that fans deserve better. But, this is kind of the results you want out of these two teams against the teams they face. Like the Kraken, you can lose to the Lightning 3-0. The Lightning are very good. But then you go and face the Panthers next, and you're projected to lose and have a very convincing win. Just like last week, the week before that, on Thanksgiving week, where we didn't have a show, they go and beat the Washington Capitals, who are the second best team in the East. So, I mean, it's you never know what you're going to get out of the Kraken or the Canucks, and it's chaos.
We love that here.
Yes, we invite chaos to a cup of coffee. I think PNW sports are just chaos in general, which is why it's really fun, really frustrating talking about them.
But we love doing it.
Yep. So that's going to do it for us here at Cup of Coffee. I will be on vacation next week in Washington, D.C., so I will not be able to do the show next week. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. So see you later, guys.
Good one.
Mm-hmm.